Mr. Sabul, welcome. Oh, please have a seat. My name is Nelson Makanda, and I'm the chair of this selection panel. We want to thank you for applying for the position of Commissioner of IEBC and to congratulate you for being shortlisted for the same. We'll take a brief moment to introduce ourselves, then we come to you. Madam Linda, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Good afternoon, Mr. Sabul.
Thank you, Chairman.
Good afternoon, Mr. Sabul.
Good afternoon.
My name is Linda Kiome. I want to take this opportunity to welcome you for your interview this afternoon. Karibu sana.
Thank you.
Bwana Mahat, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Naitwa Bwana Andrew Tanui, mwanachama wa chopo hili na karibu.
Thank you.
Mr. Mahat, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Caroline Kituko, a member of the panel. Welcome.
Pleasure.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mahat.
Good afternoon.
My name is Nicodemus Bore. Karibu sana.
Asante.
Assalamu alaikum, Mohamed.
Wa alaikum salam.
My name is Fatuma Ali Saman, a member of the panel. Please welcome.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Sabul, and karibu sana. My name is Koki Muli Grigno, and I'm a member of the panel.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mohamed.
Good afternoon.
My name is Evans Misati. I'm a member of the selection panel, and we welcome you.
Thank you, Mr. Misati.
Now, we'll come to you to introduce yourself, and as you do so, kindly highlight those things in your profile that are significant for the position you have applied for. Allow us to know whether you have any award that you have received, and if you belong to any professional society. Please proceed.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, panel members. First and foremost, I'd like to appreciate the opportunity you have given me for this interview today. To introduce myself, my name is Mohamed Mahat Sabul. I hail from Garissa County. To share my profile, I am a development practitioner and a management specialist with over 20 years experience in social development, governance, and policy engagement. In terms of my academic background, I hold a Master of Arts degree in International Development, Education, Health Promotion from the University of London. I was fortunate enough to have received a scholarship opportunity from the Commonwealth Scholarship Commission. In addition, I hold a Bachelor of Education Science degree from Kenyatta University. And also in addition to that, I have certifications in a mini MBA and a diploma in global governance. Mr. Chairman, in order to remain updated in my field and in order to sharpen my skills, I have done a number of short courses. I will mention a few that I feel are very relevant for the position I've applied for. For example, I have done a course on stakeholder analysis with elements of political economy analysis in Brussels, Belgium, facilitated by the European Commission. I've also done a course on public policy analysis in Brussels, also facilitated by the European Commission. I have done a course on public financial management, but in the context of budget support operations, but also looking at the Constitution, Article 10, that talks about the national values and the principles of good governance, the issues around also human rights. I've done a course on human rights and gender inclusion, also in Brussels, Belgium, facilitated by the European Commission. These are just but a few of the courses that I have done, which I feel are sort of transferable to the position I've applied for. Now, coming to my professional experience, Mr. Chairman, panel members, for the last 14 years, I have been working with the European Commission, deployed at the Kenya delegation and EU delegation, Somalia, as a program manager. In this role, I have supported the implementation of diverse programs. I'll just mention a few. I have supported implementation of a budget support operation, capacity building projects, what we call technical assistant projects. I've also supported implementation of service delivery grants through NGOs. And most importantly, also, I have coordinated global funds, such as the Global Partnership for Education, which is chaired by the former president of Tanzania, His Excellency Jakaya Kikwete. Now, with these different initiatives, maybe what I have sort of and gleaned out of it is that these projects have empowered people. They have enhanced governance. They've also helped build the capacity of the state. And I mean, the setting is Somalia, where the state building process is evolving at the moment. So we've deployed all these instruments so that we're able to deliver service, but also, most importantly, improve our governance. And before that, Mr. Chairman, I have worked for a big education project that covered northeastern Kenya and coastal Kenya. If I take you back when Kibaki was elected the president way back in 2002, one of the things his government prioritized was free primary education. And consequently, the education minister by then, Professor George Saitoti, moved from one Western capital to the other in order to drum support for the free primary education. And at that time, the US government came through with this big program called Education for Marginalized Children. So I've managed to serve as a field director. And through this program, I was able to transverse all the constituencies, for example, in the coastal region of Kenya, but also we've built schools in far-flung parts of northeastern Kenya, in Mandera, near the border point. The major takeaway from this particular initiative, or the Education for Marginalized Children in Kenya, is we've dwelt a lot on inclusion, which is quite a very important principle in the Constitution of Kenya, but also in the election system. I think I've really, in my entire professional life, worked on issues around inclusion of youth, inclusion of women, inclusion of people with disabilities. And I think I will say that is actually my fault in terms of some of the strong things I may bring to the commission. Interestingly, like one of the experiences while we were working on education in coastal region, I think one of the activities we had prioritized was, there was issue of very low enrollment in schools in coast and in northeastern Kenya. And one of the activity by default we had prioritized was, doing enrollment campaigns. And in one of the districts then, it's an activity that we prioritized. And later on, we went down and we realized actually there are no children to sort of mobilize. I mean, family planning initiatives years before had taken a sort of effect. And so sometimes these are some of the assumptions that we make in development, but in real sense, I mean, it's different. I think there's also a lot of assumptions that we make in the electoral context. And I think it's one of the things that I am sort of good at analyzing. Mr. Chairman, just to wrap up on my professional experience, before that, I was a teacher with the Teacher Service Commission, although I've served for a very short time. I've also worked.
How long was that period at TSC?
TSC was a very short period. I think it was even less than a year, 8 months and 9 months. But I've also served as a member of the district education boards. Those days when the district education boards were sort of very, important and glamorous. But I've also served as a secretary of constituency development fund for 7 years. But still, we've done a lot in terms of inclusion, participation of people, youth, and women in governance, and the sort of stuff that I have done. But also in my professional life, I have worked in the refugee camps in Dadaab. And you remember in 1991, there were influx of Somali refugees in Dadaab. They stayed there for 8 years. They were given primary education opportunities. In the camps, there were no secondary school, and they were not allowed to sort of join schools in the nearby settlement. So I had to go there to sort of establish secondary schools for the refugees. So that sort of summarizes my professional background.
Thank you. I would like to.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Linda, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Mr. Sabul, with the experience, the professional experience that you have had for all those years you have worked, if appointed as a member, what relevant experience do you bring to IEBC?
Thank you. I will give you 4 bullet points for this. The first thing, I'll bring in practical skills. I have managed programs, and if you look at my CV, I've given you a snapshot of some of the different projects I've managed. Some of them with the UN, UNICEF, UNOPS, some of them with the World Bank, those multilateral institutions, some of them with NGOs. So I'll bring on board a very strong management skills, but also I'll bring on board leadership skills, and also my understanding of governance issues. So that sort of coupled with my international experience, issues around development, inclusion, social development, I think I am, the right fit for the position. So that's the first thing I'll bring on the table, those skills that I've mentioned, some of them very practical. But secondly, Madam Vice Chair, I have deep commitment when it comes to issues around transparency, accountability, impartiality, integrity. If I were not a person of integrity, or if I were not transparent enough, I doubt if the European Commission would have kept me for the last 14 years. But also these are universal values. So I will come with that deep sense of, with those values. And I think that's what at the moment IEBC, but also by extension, many Kenyan institutions require. I'll come with those. Then number 3, most importantly, and I think this is quite important, I have a very sound understanding of the donor landscape. I have coordinated donor activities. I have chaired donor programs. Over the years, I have developed networks and connections. And I think with this and with my skills, I am able to catalyze effective partnerships for elections. I know there's some people who will say, with donors, they come to interfere with elections or with partners for that matter. I know elections is a sovereignty issue, but some of the elements in an election system, some a core state function the government is supposed to support, but the IEBC Act, I mean, talks about, IEBC receiving sort of grants, but also when we come to voter education, there's possibility to partner with civil society organizations. So with my experience around donor issues, coordination, liaison, and resource mobilization, it's something that I feel I should be able to plug any resource gap. And when I talk like this, I already know where the funding is. I know who is supporting what. There's the UN basket fund for elections. I have all those contacts. And I think it's something that a skill that I'll bring on board to sort of marshal support. And finally, Madam, just excuse me for a minute. I think this is also quite important. If you look at my background, I am a teacher, I am an educator. I have a good understanding of how adult pedagogies work. The way adults learn is andragogy. And one of the core functions of IEBC is voter education. If I'm given this role, we'll expand that to also include civic education. I think there's a need to revise the voter education curriculum. There's a need to tap into technology. And I think my experience, background as a teacher, as an educator, and also in the past, I was involved in civic education for referendum. We had our own organizations running that. But also in 2017, I was part of election observation mission of the European Union. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Sabul. We needed to manage that timing, but I'm sure you have given us enough material for that assessment. Thank you so much. Thank you,
Thank you,
Chairman.
Madam Linda.
Thank you. I invite Caroline to also ask you some questions. Carol, please.
Thank you, Chair. Mahat, yes, let me ask you a question on where you just stopped, on what you call to be your area of understanding, voter education. What are some of those things that the IBC must put in place to ensure that the voter education program that it will roll out fulfills its constitutional mandate?
Thank you. Going back into the mandate of IEBC, voter education is one of it, but one of the significant functions. Voter education is supposed to be continuous. I think if we want to have an informed citizenry, if we want to have informed citizens, if we want to have Kenyans who know their democratic rights, their political rights, Article 38 of the Constitution, then the way to go is voter education, civic education. Now, the gaps is that it's supposed to be, ideally, it's supposed to be continuous. What we've seen, it's not. And therefore, I think there's a need to ensure, and I think if I'm given this opportunity, I'll make sure the voter education process is continuous. But also, and it's also important to review the voter education curriculum. I think one of the things that somebody will ask is, it's not effective. Why is it not effective? So the best thing is to sort of review and improve. And one of the experiences that I have worked on education development in Somalia over the last 14 years. When we went there, we didn't have a curriculum. I mean, there were so many multiple curricula, Kenyan curricula, Yemeni curricula, Saudi curricula, and we had all that. And one of the things we've done is to work with the stakeholders to make sure that we have done the relevant consultations, and we have actually developed a curricula today that has been embraced by most of the schools in Somalia. So likewise, a gap is to review the curriculum, but also review the delivery approaches. Which approach is the one that works most effectively? I mean, at the moment in Kenya, we have a very many youthful population. We have young people, the so-called Gen Zs. I realized in the last election, IEBC targeted to register 6 million Kenyans. I think they only registered 2.5. Today, as we speak, in the voter register, we have 21 million Kenyans. But of those 21 million Kenyans, about 38% are young people, and there could be more than that. So we have to also look at appropriate delivery approach for the civic education, use of technology, use of social media, things like TikTok, I think up to until recently, many of us, including me, we were quite resistant to some of this. Today, I have a TikTok account. I mean, what about the young people? Everybody, I think, if young, it's one of the places that they are. So look at also the delivery approaches. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I wish you well. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I ask Koki Muli to ask you some questions. Koki, please.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Sabul, where do election day disputes arise from?
Thank you, Ambassador. I have followed the last elections. I mean, we have the election cycles, pre-election, post. If you look at the last election, the election of 2022, disputes normally start arising at the point of, tallying of results, and largely, presidential results. Now, if you look at the way things happened, we have Form 34A at the polling station level. Once the polling station closes at 5, the counting kicks in, and things went so smoothly. And by midnight, 80% of those forms that were transmitted through KIMS reached the National Tallying Center. And within 24 hours, we had 99% of the forms in the National Tallying Center. So in some way, up to that level, but so the dispute normally comes at the point where, the presidential results are tallied. Yeah?
What about before that?
But also before that, at the pre-election level, of course, also disputes.
During the election day. We are talking about the election day.
During the election day.
From 6 a.m. to wherever the results are announced.
Yeah, but also, I mean, on the election day, dispute could also arise at the voting stage, where, as a registered voter, you come, either your name you've registered and your name is not retrievable from the system, the BVR system, or I mean, there are glitches of technology. So issues happen around the voting time, and also during counting of votes, there are also disputes that emerge.
Thank you. Should you be nominated as a member of the commission, what will you do to minimize the election day dispute?
So one of the things I will invest in, I mean, IEBC has a very dedicated team, and actually the IEBC I envisage is one where IEBC staff are well trained and they're professional. So I will invest, as if I'm nominated for this position, I'll invest in training of election officials, the clerks, the presiding officer. That's one thing I will do. But also when it comes to accreditation of agents, election observers, they're quite important. An agent is the one who safeguards the votes cast in favor of the either candidate or party. But also we have the observers who try to ascertain the integrity of the election process. And I'll make sure that process of accreditation of observers is smooth. The media is also involved. Actually, one of the things I will do for IEBC, if I'm given this position, is to sort of have a strategic communication in place. It's quite, because there's a lot of misinformation around activities of IEBC. Thank you.
Thank you very much and all the best. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you. I want to ask FCP Tanui to ask you some questions. FCP, please.
Thank you, Chair. Bwana Mohamed. Now, during elections, the marginalized groups normally have some challenges, operational challenges that they go through that hinder their full participation in the elections. Kindly identify these challenges that marginalized groups go through, and what mitigation measures will you put in place if considered for this position of commissioner? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tonui. I think my approach to this question will be to define who are these marginalized people. And I will take that to be people with disabilities, people from pastoralist communities, minorities for that matter, and many others. And these people sort of face a lot of challenges. I think the first challenge is at the level where we register Kenyans, okay? We say voter registration is supposed to be continuous. The reality is that it's a bit periodic. But then during registration, it's quite difficult to reach, for example, people from far-flung pastoralist communities. And therefore, we have to come with a strategy to reach these people, whether it's through mobile voter registration systems or others. But also when it comes to people with disabilities, when I was reading important documents, be it the Constitution or the IEBC, I mean, they talk about if you want to register as a voter, somebody has to be sane, you know? I mean, we can have a discussion around this, but I think it's discriminatory. I mean, some people could be having some mental of any physical disability. So even at registration, I mean, disabled people, face discrimination. But also on the voting day, in the last elections in Somaliland, because my file covers Somaliland, the last election they had, I was engaging with a group, sort of a DPO, Disabled People Organization, and they said our people are disenfranchised because they're pastoralists, but that situation is compounded when that pastoralist has disability and therefore mobility, access. And I think there's no provision to make sure these people are transported from their homes to the polling station. Some of the polling stations are makeshift. There are not even ramps to access, and so on and so forth. So disabled people face a lot of challenges. So for the marginalized people, and I think Article 100 of the Constitution, it talks about, including all these people in all development endeavors. It's quite important, and I think it's my background. It's an area of strength. Inclusion policies is some of the things I can advance if I'm given the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. I wish you well. Back to you, Chair.
Thank you. I want to ask Misati to ask a question.
Thanks so much. Yeah. Mohamed, I wanted to ask you a question related to the clarity of the roles and responsibilities between the commissioners and the secretariat. There are distinct roles in human resource management.
Thank you. So the IEBC consists of the commission and the secretariat. The function of the commission is quite clear. Policy formulation, strategy formulation, oversight. Then if you come to the secretariat led by the CEO, the secretariat is supposed to run the commission on day-to-day basis, but also implement those policies and strategies approved by the Commission. So there's a very clear delineation of the roles and responsibilities. But of course, sometimes there are conflicts. There are actually conflicts between the commissioners themselves, but also there's conflict between the commissioners and secretariat. I remember we all know the issue around Cherera 4, and I think in the Supreme Court case, I think there are some recommendations around improvement of the corporate governance of IEBC, because it's quite important that, I mean, the commission, the authority, and I mean, to tally votes, to declare, I mean, it's supposed to be collective. It's vested on the collective. And I think one of the recommendations that came from the Supreme Court ruling is that there has to be a very clear delineation of the administrative, the policy and strategic functions of the different cadres.
Sorry to cut you short. I wanted you to identify the specific things that will bring the conflicts. In your own view, what will bring conflict? You can name one or two.
Yeah. So one thing that brings conflict is IEBC is supposed to be an independent constitutional commission. But that is, that is the ideal. But sometimes the reality is that it faces attack from people with vested interest. If you look at the political economy analysis of Kenyan elections, it's all about, power, resources. So sometimes what brings about the conflict is interference from people with certain interest. And I think we've seen that in the last elections. Then another issue that will bring about conflict is, I mean, the lack of clarity sometimes of the administrative, the policy, the strategic remit of, say, the commissioners vis-a-vis the chairman, okay? But when you come again to the secretariat, it's another level, issues around procurement sometimes. I mean, Kenya is a special country. I mean, we have all those challenges. And that's why I said, you gave me this opportunity, I bring on the table integrity and transparency.
Thanks so much, Mohamed, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you, Mr. Misati.
Thank you. I invite Fatuma Saman to ask you some questions. Fatuma, please.
Thank you, Chairman, Mr. Mohamed. And I'm sure you're familiar with MOUs. You're a policy person. So how should IEBC use policy instruments like MOUs to strengthen institutional collaboration with the electoral stakeholders?
Thank you. I think first let's define who are the electoral stakeholders. In this case, we're talking about, say, the media. We're talking about the political parties. We talk about civil society organizations for voter education. We even talk about the state, the government. I mean, these institutions are independent, but they're also interdependent. So those are the sort of the stakeholder layout. Now, MOUs are quite a loose way of committing the parties, but it works where there's honesty and sincerity on both sides. What's quite important is that the MOU will have to be clear, with very clear articulation of, for example, roles, responsibilities, the financial resources, and so on and so forth. And from my experience, and I've managed over 200 grants, and every time we give a grant, either to an NGO or to an agency, we encourage them to have an MOU. So it works. I know MOUs have become a bit infamous during the initial government after 2002, but in a way, it works when both sides are of mutual interest and they have understanding of what needs to be done. Thank you, Fatuma.
Like you say, commitment. Where do these MOUs derive their commitment from? Like, for instance, the MOUs are drawn between the two parties, yeah? You are cautious enough to say that it is important. There's commitment to them. So where would they draw that kind of a commitment?
I must admit, I'm not a lawyer, but MOUs only work if there's sort of a commitment on both sides. It's sort of a gentleman's agreement. Now, where are these commitments coming from? I mean, where are they drawn from? One is the institutions. Normally, the highest level in that institution will sign the MOU. I don't expect a senior election official to sort of sign, but at the level of CEO or at the level of commission. So it draws authority commitment from the office, but also where financial and resources are involved, it tends to sort of create a greater commitment on the part of the parties of the MOU.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mohamed. I wish you well.
Thank you, Fatima.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I invite Bore to ask a question, please.
Thank you. Mahat,
Thank you.
you indicated that you are working as a coordinator, you served as a coordinating agent, the global partnership for the European funding to Somalia, where you helped in facilitating multi-stakeholder consensus during the grant agent selection process. How do you identify donors for the purpose of maybe election? Like if you become a member, how would you identify donors? And that you can add up on the question, what are the risks associated with the grant funding?
Thank you, Mr. Bore. How do you identify donors for the different initiatives? Normally, IEBC should have a sort of a strategic plan. IEBC has different departments, I think up to 9 or 10. Each department has got its own plan. For example, the Department of Voter Education. And I think there's a way to sort of develop or sort of mainstream that into a program document. So IEBC has to identify what it wants, what are its gaps, what is the government able to provide, and what is a development partner is able to provide. So once we have that, then from where I sit, I will have to do what we call donor mapping. Some of the institutions are historical. They have worked with IEBC. For example, just last year, we had the multi-partner basket fund, which was funded by the EU, FCDO, and few other countries, managed by UNDP. So naturally, those organizations becomes, my first port of call. I mean, the sort of a historical relationship. But one other way to approach it is to sort of, and I mean, IEBC is a state project, and I think the government has the capacity to organize a sort of a donor meeting, donor conference, where you present your work program and donors are given opportunity to see where they fit in. Now, what are the risks? Very good question. Now, IEBC and the elections, I mean, there's a sovereignty imperative. As a commissioner, I will not want, a foreign entity to meddle in the affairs of IEBC. It's all about power. It's all about sovereignty. So in that case, we have to define what activities are core and therefore those those activities become a core state function, you know, and they're those activities that we can say, look, it's safe enough. Let's give donors space to sort of work on this. And from where I sit, I will identify 3 areas that we can engage. If I'm given the opportunity, 3 areas that I will engage donors on. One is voter registration, okay? At the moment, we have 21 million registered voters in Kenya. There's possibility to push that to 30 million. The law requires it's continuous. There are resource constraints. IEBC has a budget now, I think, for the next election of 61 billion. Still, it's not enough. And it's the core. Voter registration is core. We have the Gen Zs. And last time they didn't register because they've lost interest in Kenyan politics. This time, I think they have the real interest to sort of participate in the process. And I'll assure you, if I'm given this opportunity, I will, working with the other commissioners, I'll try my level best to ensure that no Kenyan is disenfranchised. I'll register the Kenyan youth. I'll register the Gen Zs. I'll register the marginalized groups. I'll register all Kenyans regardless. And I think it's a solemn duty that I'll have to do. So 3 things the donors could support: voter education, voter registration, and I think one big gap that we have in IEBC is strategic communication. And that's why there are all this, you know, trust deficit. A lot of good work is happening, but also there's a lot of fake news. And therefore, IEBC needs to work with fact checkers. It's supposed to even develop an objective for its communication plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Mahat, and all the best.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I ask Professor Adam Solo to ask you some questions. Prof.
Thank you, Chair Sabul. I want to continue along the line that my colleague Bore has left, but refocus it to financial mismanagement. That from all the way from the double IIEC to IEBC, you had Chicken Gate, you had procurement questions always arising. You have what Kenyans feel is a bloated budget. If you are made a commissioner, given that IEBC oversees substantial public funds, what strategies would you introduce to prevent the misuse of resources while at the same time upholding accountability in the Commission's financial operations?
Thank you. It's a problem, and I think you've provided a very good sort of example. I think one way is to apply, you know, the public financial management and asset disposal act provisions. I think if there's sort of fidelity to that, I mean, for example, last time we've seen there was this government to government. I don't know if it was on the kids or something, you know. And sometimes when it's government to government, I think maybe certain provisions are not applicable. Yeah, and I think
is your gadget on?
Sorry, I'll try to go.
Just repeat what you said again.
Yeah, thank you. So you've given a very good preamble of this particular problem. One way to overcome this issue of misuse of resources is one, fidelity to the Public Financial Management and Asset Disposal Act. There are very good provisions in there. And I'd made reference to, for example, you know, the G2G, sometimes where it sort of, you know, circumvents the process. But also, most importantly, there has to be transparency around procurement. Just to give you an example, just before the last election, the government, I mean, IEBC wanted to replace the kits. Yeah. So there was that, I mean, there was the initial one that was procured before 2007, somehow updated. They were to be updated, and procurement was necessary. And I think up to now, I think there's an agreement that I think that process wasn't very, very transparent. And I think the implication of that is, you know, public losing trust in the work of IEBC. But then another way to be prudent in resource use is the Secretariat prepared a budget of 61 billion for the next election. 61, quite a lot of money looking at the resource constraints. But I have looked, this money is supposed to buy, for example, new KIMS. It's supposed to train HR, human resources. It's supposed to procure ballot boxes and ballot papers and that kind of stuff. So there's a way also that needs to be rationalized. And I think if I'm given the opportunity in the commission, we'll have to scrutinize all those budgets, and then we will have to look at it with a toothpick. Thank you.
Thank you. And lastly, for me in this segment is the question that you have repeatedly talked about throughout these interactive sessions on transparency and ensuring that the results are accurate. But you know that at times that doesn't come to be. So in a situation in which we are a commissioner and results have been disputed, how would you ensure the IEBC's decision-making process remains transparent and justifiable to all stakeholders? In other words, how do you prevent that so that from the moment that the vote is cast to the moment that the result is transmitted, by your own words, I was told it's instant, but at least you said that within 24 hours, the results would be there. Why then, if the results are there, within 24 hours at the tallying center, what stops the IEBC from using the same results that were transmitted that are there within 24 hours to verify what comes from the field? Why do we have all these shenanigans in Bomas?
So thank you, Professor Adams Olo. I used to watch you on the television screens, but today I think I have an opportunity to sit, you know, at a very close proximity.
And you have seen a very small man.
Yeah, but also you've been asking tough questions, so I think I can handle this one. So coming back to the question, by law, at the National Tallying Center, IEBC has 7 days to announce the presidential results. There's a logic to that. The logic to that is that the results coming from the polling stations.
No, the logic I know.
Yeah. So that, you know, there's possibility to verify all that. So the point I'm trying to make is that there's a lot of uneasiness within those 7 days. IEBC is within its time frame, but Kenyans want, like, within 1, 2, 3 days, the results.
Sabul, because of time.
Yeah.
By your own assessment, you have said that the result that was transmitted from the 46,000 or 47,000 polling stations,
99% were in within 24 hours.
99% are there within 24 hours.
Yes, right.
Why doesn't the verification, it is already there. Why doesn't the verification take place within another maximum 24 hours or 48 hours, so that this unease that you're talking about is not there? See, the result is there.
Yes.
So what's the big issue?
So, Professor, I think verification is very important because at the end of the day, also, you know, there are political parties at the National Tallying Center.
Can I rephrase my question?
Okay, please.
The results that have been transmitted that are according to you within 24 hours there, where are they? You said they have arrived within 24 hours. Where are they?
They're in the servers.
So what stops?
So
what stops what is in the server being brought and compared? Why wait for 7 days?
Yeah,
going round a table?
Yeah. So, Professor, you see, I'm not the one who had actually put, you know, the necessity to verify. It's all about verification.
And I'm agreeing with you.
That takes all that time.
What I'm saying, you've seen on TV that bombers.
Yes.
With the tables like this.
Yes.
One form from there, giving this one, giving this one, giving this one, giving this one. The chairman has a secluded corner there. The Supreme Court said is illegal. I'm saying, you have said that it is in the server within 24 hours. Just like what you are saying is in the Hansard immediately. What stops IEBC with the people who are allowed, be they political presidential candidates, transcribing what is in the server and verifying, because your issue is verifying?
Yeah, in 1 minute, I'll try to summarize all this. I mean, before you announce result, you have to build consensus within your team, IEBC commissioners. We had a very serious challenge around that in the last election. Cherera 4, chairman and few other commissioners, and it was a very big debacle. That's one. Number two, also reading the Supreme Court verdict. I mean, one of the areas of strengthening the ICT or IEBC technology is to make sure that only IEBC staff have access to the servers. The implication of this is that it appears there are other people who had access to the servers. This are not maybe, you know, the parties or whatever, but maybe, you know, backroom guys or people who are supporting the technology and that kind of stuff.
Should at least the representative of the presidential candidates legally have access to the servers?
Yeah, they should be given what we call the read-only sort of access. And these are some of the things, I think we can agree on this. All this will have to be streamlined, and I think I have a very good understanding of what needs to be done. But above all, IEBC needs to communicate. We must have a strategic communication from day one when that National Tallying Center is set.
My last question to you.
Thank you.
You just said that the Cherera 4 and the Chebukati 3, that they were supposed to develop a consensus. If Form 34A has said that Sabul in this polling station has gotten 400 and Adams Olo has gotten 200 in the server, what's there to have a consensus? Isn't it what is there?
No, but remember also, results cannot be declared until the original.
And that's what I said. If you pull it from the server and say, this is what Sabul got, and this is what, because the server is a true reflection of what came, isn't it?
Yeah, but it has to be verified with originals. The presiding officers,
and that's my point.
They travel all the way to the National Tallying Center to hand deliver so that it's verified. I mean, also the commissioners have to be very careful to not announce results that is not verified.
Do you see that's where the problem is?
Yeah.
If this is something that nearly tears the country, what would stop the government from deploying a chopper that day to bring the person who is in the farthest place? We see money spent all the time. Can't money be spent to save the country? Wouldn't you want that as a commissioner?
I mean, there's good effort. I mean, every elections. I mean, I have grown up in rural Garissa, and every time once the voting exercise is done, counted, you see in those far-flung choppers coming to collect.
And it happened in 2002, didn't it?
It happens.
Within a very short time.
It might not be adequate, but it happened. I think they're good effort, but there's the room to do better.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Prof. I welcome you again.
I saw in your CV, this is high school, so it's not the tough server questions or what have you, that you worked in relation to CDF for a very long
Constituency
time.
Development Fund.
Which member of parliament initiated through a private member's motion the CDF motion, and which year was CDF enacted into law?
So the member of parliament, I don't seem to remember his name, but I think it's a former honorable member of parliament from Laikipia, somewhere in Laikipia.
Which year was CDF enacted into law?
2004.
My last question. Which two African lakes are among the largest freshwater lakes in the world?
Lake Victoria.
30 seconds.
Lake Turkana.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Appreciated your wisdom and knowledge and experience. Thank you for sharing it with us. I don't know whether you have any question or comment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, panel members. Once again, I say I was honored to be shortlisted for this position, but also to be here today to be interviewed for the position. In the event I am called to duty as a member of IEBC, I envisage an IEBC that is credible, where its human resource staff are well-trained and professional, and where its technology works for the elections. And therefore, thank you, and I look forward to hearing from you guys. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and blessings to you. You find a gentleman at the door who has your certificate. We wish you well. The notebook and the pen and the water belong to you. Blessings, and go well.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, panel members.
Thank you, members of the Fourth Estate Media. We thank you again for helping Kenyans follow these sessions. We have come to the end of our day today. We resume tomorrow at 8:30. Again, we have 6 candidates tomorrow, God willing. We continue to thank you for making this possible for us and for Kenyans to participate in the process that we are undertaking. So asanteni sana. We will see you tomorrow. Bless you.